technology will do, and how we need to protect our democracy against it, but also how to enhance life, where our economy works, and how we as a society utilize the tools that are being created. Because AI, ChatGPT, the blockchain, these are tools that we use as a society to enhance the way we live, to make our economy more productive, and to ensure that moving forward as a society, we improve the living standards of everybody, raising everybody's living standards, taking people out of poverty, and ensuring that we live in a society that's fairer, more equal, and is protected from the risks from external actors. That is what this part of this policy paper is about. How do we know that deep fakes are deep fakes in the future, where you have a quantum computer basically exactly matching everything about a person? That can be done through the blockchain. That can be done through ensuring that we utilize the tools that we have created as a society to protect our democracy. It's essential that we utilize the tools we have, because other people will be as well. You cannot reverse the tide of technological change. You have to ride it, and you have to utilize it to the best of your ability. That's why it's excellent to work with Superteam, GSR, Stand with Crypto, because at Labour Tech, we don't just believe that technology is going to be good or that we should have another drink reception about it. We need to inform policymakers about the real-life implications of the shift that is coming, because it's already here. There are quantum computers out there that can sense where a submarine is that was previously invisible to normal radar. Global satellite communication systems are being spoofed day in and day out. We saw it with Ursula von der Leyen recently, where her aircraft thought it was somewhere else because someone had hacked the satellite. Just think about that for a second. Your tap and pay card uses global positioning in order to make sure they knows it's you. That technology is now under threat. How do we protect against it? At this paper, it's the start of that conversation. We are Labour Tech, and we're here to help platform you guys, industry, directly to policymakers. We have 7 MPs across the 4 events we've got. 2 will be coming today. One's the chair of Labour Growth Group, Chris Curtis, becoming more and more influential, which is great. And Tristan Osborne, who is a champion for the blockchain and Labour Tech in Parliament. He's your parliamentarian. He'll be saying more and more and more about this with Stand with Crypto, with Superteam, with GSR. Thank you all very much. Hopefully that was a good introduction. Yeah.
Making the commitment to be here. I know some of you have travelled quite far, but very grateful that you're all here this morning at the heart of the Labour Party conference. I just want to give some thanks. Thank you to our sponsors, GSR and Blockchain for Good Alliance, for making this happen. Thank you also to our research partners, Paulina Vertex from the Centre for Alternative Finance at Judge Business School, University of Cambridge, and the head of researcher at Fabric Ventures. Thank you as well for that. We really wanted to do this report to substantiate the reason why we wanted to do this event in the first place. And so I do encourage every single one of you to read it. It is really insightful. And there were some industry interviews to help that as well, but I won't go into that. I'll let Paulina talk about it just before the end of the event. And also, of course, thank you to Labour Tech for believing in the work that we do, just as much as we believe in the work that they do, helping policymakers get educated on emerging technologies. And this event is really part of a overall narrative and policy work that we're doing at Superteam, which is to help early stage founders get their voices and interests and expertise across amongst policy making discussions, because we believe that if it's only the large incumbents and the big players who are part of these conversations, that increasingly early stage founders will get sidelined. But we really value and believe that the significance of their expertise, their passion for innovation, and their commitment to economic growth in the UK is really important. And so part of the agenda today is to listen to some of our founders who are building use cases for blockchain that go beyond just the quintessential payments, DeFi, crypto, and stable coins. We really wanted to show other use cases and utility of blockchain. And we hope that you find this insightful, and thank you again for being here. I'll pass it over to Agridex to give us their keynote product.
I just hold it like this? Yeah. Sort of world's smallest. Hello, everyone. I'm Henry Duckworth, the founder of Agridex. It's a digital marketplace designed to allow agriculture to flow freer around the world. But before I set up Agridex, when I was a child, I was the son of a farmer. And anyone who's worked with farmers or knows anything about the world of farming knows that it's a world of razor-thin margins and hyper-friction. You're expected to be your own engineer because you have to know how to build the dams. You're expected to be your own accountant because you have to balance your books once a month. You're expected to be an expert on the weather. No good farmer goes more than about 10 minutes without speaking about the problems of weather. So you're expected to be an expert in all of these fields, but then you're also expected to produce high quality goods and then be able to send them around the world to find your end clients, to find your end buyers, but also to manage all of that friction that sits in the middle of global trade. And this is the most terrifying thing. England especially, I mean, we're sitting here today talking about how to boost British business. England especially has a range of incredibly high quality goods that most of the rest of the world want access to. I truly believe that one of the reasons that we're not doing that is because of the friction points that exist in between it. And let me talk to you about the ways that we try to abstract friction. The first and clearest one is the idea of digitization of contracts, digitization of paperwork. A huge problem to this day, and I used to be a commodities trader, is you have to send paperwork around the world. You have to send it in duplicate, sometimes three different types of paperwork to 3 different places. We synthesize that and we put it on chain. The second thing that we obviously work through is settlement, and that's maybe a little bit less sexy, but probably the most important thing. If you think about how to make payments around the world, often you need to set up local correspondent banking relationships. You need to engage with the local currencies that exist in those regions. And then you actually have to deal with the local communities by sending out money and receiving them. Now, anyone who's ever sent a small payment abroad knows how difficult it can be. But when you're sending $1 million as a payment for an importation of fertilizer from Morocco as a local farm in central Gloucestershire, let me tell you, a range of different issues occur, from locking up of your capital to bad FX rates to simply not really knowing who's on the other side when something goes wrong. So digital settlement is incredibly important. And when we talk about the benefits to the UK, I think one of the things that I've always been surprised about, and I hope that we do get a digital pound here, is it's often backed by gilt. It's backed by short-term government debt. So what you're doing is you're creating an instrument to allow immediate payment in a currency that we all love and want to propagate around the world, but is ultimately backed by short-term debt, allowing for better credit relationships for the government. So settlement's the second thing that's really, really important. But the third one as well is access. We onboard a range of institutional buyers, traders, and producers from around the world to create a network effect for the trade of food. We've already engaged in the trade of oils. We've engaged in the trade of wheat, sugar, seeds, fertilizer. And really the idea over time is to build a massive network effect so that you as a producer, let's say, you're a small Gloucestershire-based farmer, you suddenly have access to a range of buyers from across the world, but you also have a range of importers that you can engage with, whether that, again, is for your fertilizer, for your inputs, for your seeds. I think the way to think about it is the world is becoming more and more interlocked, and there's a better case for communication. But on the reverse, there are still these massive barriers that exist. And I think, through blockchain and through working with Solana and a range of our partners who are here today, we're hoping to abstract some of those issues and build out a more hyper-connected world. So thank you very much.
Is that you? Sure. Awesome. Thank you very much, Harry, for being able to share this incredible thing what Agridex is being able to do. I'm Cap. I'm the lead of Superteam UK, so it's a pleasure to be able to invite you all here today. So I want to invite up our next speaker, James from Dawn, to tell us all about what they're being able to build with decentralized broadband.
You got me? I got you. All right, I went the slide route today. Hi, everybody. I'm James. I'm co-founder of Dawn. I'm here today to talk about building a global network on chain. And really, we exist in this category of what's called DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure. So bringing things that are really tangible on chain. And there's a reason that we do that, and I'll get into that. But actually, the story I'm going to tell today starts about 10 years ago. I don't know about you, but I was really unhappy with my internet. And on top of that, I was paying way too much on a monthly basis. And then I was like, well, there's no real options around there. I was kind of stuck with one, and not to name names or anything. I started asking around, and it seemed to be a bit of a universal problem. And in fact, it is. This is a statistic from the United States, but the telecommunications industry has an NPS average of about 12, which is pretty crap. It's probably the lowest, actually, across every industry in the U.S. So people are paying too much. They're unsatisfied, but they don't really have any options. And I was like, well, I kind of want to know why we don't have an option. Why can't there be others out there? Turns out it's really expensive to build an internet service provider. So these are, a range of what it costs to bring fiber to each individual home. And when you think about that, and if I'm only paying, say, 50 to 100 pounds a month, the payback period is tough as well. On top of that, there's a bunch of red tape associated with actually getting things on a telephone pole underground. It takes about 6 months to put something on a telephone pole, unfortunately. 3 months of permitting and 3 months for someone else to check a box saying you can do it. So basically, there's all this industry momentum against other folks being able to do this. So it's like, well, maybe there's another way. And actually, what we stumbled into is doing things wirelessly. These are some of the antennas in our network, but what we realized, and this is about 8-10 years ago, was there were these amazing antennas that at the time could do 500, 1,000 megabits per second over the air, low latency, basically the same as fiber. Flash forward to today, those same radios are doing 10 gigabits per second plus. So we can send a tremendous amount of internet over the air. It's basically the same thing as if you're sending it via fiber as well. But what it ultimately means is that I can get internet to the average home much more efficiently, much less expensively. And so this was kind of the basis for the internet service provider that we founded 8 years ago now, Andrina. Today we've grown this to be tens of thousands of subscribers in the across the United States. But that was kind of just the beginning for us. And, while we were building Andrina, we noticed kind of two industry trends that were interesting to us. First was the rise of the MVNO, or this is the mobile virtual network operator. Some examples in the UK would be Tesco Mobile, Sky Mobile, ID Mobile. They don't actually own any of their network infrastructure. They're just leasing space from someone else, leasing connectivity from someone else. You can kind of think of them as like a marketing layer on top of someone else's network. We thought that was really interesting. The second was a company, Helium. And maybe some of you have heard of Helium, but basically what they do is they build software and hardware that allows community-powered networks. And actually what's interesting about it is it runs on chain, courtesy of their token, HNT, which is kind of the means of transaction for all of it, the grease in the wheel. We thought that was really interesting, especially because the very first pitch for Andrina when we first started the company was internet on chain. But this was 8 years ago. Everyone said, just do the internet piece. So that's what we did. So we're like, well, there are market forces here at play. It seems like maybe the timing is right. Especially when you think about it, the bottom left two are Helium. So this is their IoT product. They do very low latency network. Then they also have their own cellular network. They're empowering other cellular networks to have better coverage as well. Couldn't we do the same thing for internet? And we think we can. So that's what Dawn is. Oh, sorry. There's another slide in there somewhere. Oh, there used to be. One other thing is, what we noticed in our network was that people were only using 3 megabits per second on average. They're paying for a lot more than they were actually using at any given time. So they have all this excess capacity. What about that other 997 megabits per second? What are they actually going to do with that? And then this is the slide I wanted. This is Dawn. Dawn is creating the software and hardware that empower people to sell their excess capacity, right? To actually monetize that. From a very technical level, Dawn is a protocol for decentralized broadband. To put it more simply, it's software for buying and selling internet service. So it's a global internet marketplace, you can think of it. Not just Andrina coming on and using Dawn, but other internet service providers that we're partnering with, or a single family home that wants to put something on their rooftop and sell to their neighbors. So why do we actually need the blockchain for this? It's a very valid question and something we always like to touch on. First and foremost, it's an incentive for people to deploy hardware. Whereas you might deploy hardware and it has a certain payback period. If there's an added layer of incentive on that, people want to participate in that network and especially be early to that network. That's something that we've seen with the Helium network be effective with their HNT. On top of that, it's the means of transaction. So something that blockchain is very useful for is acting as the means of transaction in a trustless environment. Maybe these two guys, they know one another, they're neighbors, but you don't have to know who you're selling internet to. You don't have to know who you're buying internet from. That's an important part of this marketplace mechanic, and that's where the protocol comes in. So, really quickly, Dawn is a protocol for decentralized broadband. What does blockchain do? It facilitates deployment incentives and trustless transactions. And ultimately, we believe this is the future of the internet. So taking what the MVNO world is doing in mobile, but bringing that to internet, where we have this global internet marketplace. And that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Amazing.
Thanks, Cap.
Beautiful, James. I think it's really powerful, the type of technology that we get to start seeing now come to fruition, and it's possible in this new frontier of tech world that we're going into. And so I'd like to be able to now bring up our next speaker, Jessica from Blockchain for Good. So here you go, Jessica. Reject the cookies.
So, Blockchain for Good, a global initiative to harness blockchain for real-world impact. Before we dive into this, just a quick introduction about myself. My name is Jessica. I'm the UK ambassador here for BGA, Blockchain for Good Alliance. And before I was at KPMG in graduate scheme, focusing in private enterprise audit. I worked in Canary Wharf for 1.5 years before I dive into the crypto realm. And before that, I was a student at LSE. And before LSE, I studied anthropology for my bachelor's at UCL. So come back to Blockchain for Good Alliance. What exactly is this? So we were founded last year in April by Ben and Helen, the CEO and COO of Bybit. Bybit is the world's second largest crypto exchange in the world by trading volume. So the Blockchain for Good Alliance is really pushing and support blockchain use cases for social and public good impact. So some food for thought. So when we talk about blockchain these days, by extension, a lot of people will say, oh, it's about crypto. So it comes with this speculation in attitude, but our shift in mindset is that speculation and impact, they don't go mutually exclusive. So why are we thinking about it that way? When someone come up say about public goods, people say, oh, it's for the government, it's for the NGO, it's for some agencies and ministries. It's not for us. It's not sexy for, Web3 people. It's no ICO, no quick token sales, not a meme coin. It's not nice. But if you really think about it in a different perspective, what if we actually start analyzing the actual world impact, not just some technical analysis where we look at trends, when we look at returns? What if the actual users that benefit from it is the users who don't know what crypto or what blockchain actually is? So ultimately, the challenge is, well, it's not really about adoption. It's about designing a system that rewards value creation beyond just trading tokens. So how do we go about that? So our main goal is to ultimately position blockchain as a tool because it does have capabilities, and we believe we have the capabilities to align itself with sustainability development goals of the United Nations. So the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, is one of our key partners this year, which I will go into that in a little bit. So really, we're just about 1 year old, but we have a massive exposure around the world. Many partner types, many active regions across the continents, even though we're a pretty small team in Bybit. And of course, what we really do, we are actually powered by what we call the Web3 Key Fund, which is a multi-million-dollar fund given to us by Bybit to carry out all these global initiatives. So first one is hackathons. So we sponsor hackathons all over the world as long as it comes with these 5 values. At the UK, we sponsored one recently in Imperial College London, AI Agent Hackathon. And I think the winner for the BGA track, they came up with a scam detection platform which protect users from scam, whether in Web 2 and Web 3. And I think the next one coming up is actually in November in UCL, the Center of Blockchain Technologies. So we sponsor hackathons all over the world as long as these 5 values are presented. And we have an internal incubation program as well. So this is where we support projects that use technology for as long as you push social and public good impact. So we give them essentially an equity-free grants. We give them marketing support, branding support, even graphic design support, and most likely legal and compliance advice as well. So basically, whatever the project needs, the Bybit is all able to support, because essentially we're a non-profit arm, so it's literally at 0 cost. So a little bit more about our flagship project last year is a project called Ethic Hub. It received 1 million liquidity support from Bybit. So if you guys love coffee, you guys would love Ethic Hub, because Ethic Hub is very interesting. They specifically target, coffee farmers in those remote areas in South America. And it is where they can actually have a solution which allow those farmers to, have access to microfinancing and basically, get their orders, their products all the way to our tables. So this is some real world impact we're talking about here. And we also have a joint fund, which is the third pillar. We work collaboratively with multiple institutions, L1 blockchains, VCs, UNDP, as you can see. So we aim to create a larger funding pools to push the blockchain positive impact forward. So the first one we closed this year is called Mathverse, as you can see on the slide. So they're essentially endorsed and backed by the Malaysian government. So this is very interesting because you don't really see a blockchain that's actively, officially supported by a country's government. And they are part of one of our sponsors. So last but not least is the BGA Awards, so which is a year-end event which we have a global stage to showcase, to support the blockchain impact we've done all over the year. So just a quick shout out, at the end of this year, we are having a massive event at UNCT in Copenhagen, Denmark in November in our collaboration. So we are going to be a 2 days event. Very excited. This is going to push blockchain for social impact forward. So, we have very strong international connections here. We work with experts, we work with politicians, we work with universities and all kinds of institutions. So we also do, impactful hackathons, which I just showed. And of course, we celebrate the best players at the end of the year. And this year is going to be in the UNCT in Denmark. So if any of these interest you, or you think you can take part in, or you want to support, or you want to contribute, very welcome to come to me at the end of this meeting and, scan our QR code, take a look at our website or X or LinkedIn. My personal Telegram is also here. We can have a nice chat if you think, this initiative really inspires you, or if you want to do something in the UK that we can definitely support you. Do let me know your background as well when you reach out so we can see how much of an insightful chat we can have. So that's all I have for today. Let's back to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much. Incredible. I think it's really important to be able to spotlight the good that the ecosystem can do as well, and how we can be able to raise money from the internet capital markets and give back to all the different people growing in the world. So I think that's really beautiful. And can we just get another big round of applause for all of our speakers here today? Thank you. So we'll be transitioning in a minute into our lovely debates. So at Superteam UK, we like to try and do things differently. So we've avoided the idea of the typical panel that everyone goes to. We like to be able to showcase what not just the future of tech is possible, but also the future of how you can be able to organize events, organize initiatives, bring people together, and be able to support incredible causes. And so before we jump into all of that, I just wanted to give a little bit of context on a little bit about why we've decided to start doing these types of initiatives. And for myself as the leader Superteam, why I'm quite passionate about the idea that I think there's this concept that blockchain is this new emerging technology, and right now it's not being treated as such. It's kind of being lost in the vein of this random word called crypto, and it's kind of clouded our perceptions of the industry. But as a technology underneath, it's incredibly powerful, and it can do incredible things that's going to change our financial system underneath it. And it's going to be incredibly important for things like AI, for things like quantum, biotech, robotics. It's going to fit into all of these categories. And I believe that as people building an industry, we should see ourselves at the frontier of tech. And we're doing quite a fun activation today. So after the event, as you walk around the Labour Party conference and the surrounding area, you may find a fun little billboard of somebody talking about some new news, because you can create these types of things with AI, and it's one of the big risks of content authenticity. And so we've got these lovely little deepfakes of Keir Starmer going around on a billboard currently. It's actually blaring outside right now. And it's all around just like little fun things. So it's Freddo's back to 10p, Larry the Cat's got this new role, but it was very easy to make. And these types of things are possible. And blockchain is one of those technologies that will allow us to authenticize that and be able to prove, well, is Keir actually saying that? You know, is this true? Does Larry the Cat now have this new role? No is the answer. But how do we know that if we haven't been able to go through the processes and utilize the technology that we have to hand? And so I think it was quite cool to be able to explore these newer concepts and ideas, and for us to be able to see each other at that frontier and all of us be building. So I hope you enjoyed being able to hear from our founders. Here at Superteam UK, we help all different types of founders over the last couple of years, and we're a global organization. So Superteam is in 20 different countries across the world. So if you're ever traveling, there's hopefully a local Superteam for you. Now, I would love to be able to transition over into our debates. So if I could welcome up our first few speakers to be able to come and join us. We're starting with the second debate on the agenda. So if Raphael, Lata, and Chris, if you want to join us on stage, you can take the...
Do I need to press anything? No. Oh, God. No. Hi, Ralph.
So our first debate is all about AI safety in Britain and like the next growth opportunity. So,
Thanks very much. Can you hear me? Great. So maybe if we quickly do intros. Start with you, Chris.
I'm Chris Curtis. I'm the Labour MP for Milton Keynes North. And I'm co-chair of the Labour Growth Group, which is the largest group of backbench Labour MPs, trying to push in order to get the British economy finally growing again after a decade and a half of stagnation.
Great intro. Hi everyone, I'm Lata. I'm Head of Research at Fabric Ventures.
I'm Ralph Landisman from GSR. We're a crypto liquidity provider and venture capital investor. So as Pat was saying, the title of this session is AI Safety, Britain's Next Growth Opportunity. So I was going to start with you, Chris, and ask you, obviously Labour's spoken a lot about the promise of AI and the role it can play in fueling economic growth. But what are the risks associated with AI that keep you and other MPs awake at night?
Well, let's start with by, I think, quite aggressively making the case that you opened your question with, because I don't want that to get lost in the important debate around safeguarding and safety. A crucial debate, but let's not lose that important point about the transformative change. This is going to be the most important, probably going to be the most important technology in my lifetime, and have a real impact on the entirety of people's lives in the British economy. And we need to be a country that embraces that, and we need to ensure, that within that, there's going to be places where the UK thrives, but and then there's going to be places where the UK has challenges. I think particularly looking at how we can ensure that we are the fastest country at deploying AI around the rest of our sort of public services, economy, and institutions is one of those places where we can have a real positive impact. But if we're going to take on the challenges that this country and this planet are going to face in the decades to come, we need to ensure that we are at the forefront of the AI revolution. But let's be honest, there are real risks and problems that are going to come alongside that. I think the starting point has to be that we're already operating in a pretty low trust environment. I mean, us politicians notice this pretty much every day of the week when we're having conversations with our constituents. And I think that's the real worry I have, is that connection that's going to end up happening between the disruptive impact that AI is going to have alongside already operating in that low trust environment. I actually think some of the societal, political consequences of that you're already starting to see through. And I think ensuring that we try and safeguard against those challenges, so ensuring that as we go through this technological revolution, we learn from the mistakes of previous industrial revolutions, and we actually make sure that we do support those who are left behind. And that's not about trying to stop the speed that the change, or slow down the speed at which that change happens, because that never works any more than you can stop the tides, but ensuring that you look after those who do have their life disrupted as we go through that revolution. And then I think we do, the one that really keeps me up at night is I think, I'm not saying I've got a solution to this, but we do have to think more about the informational environment that we now operate in. I think it is very scary to move towards the kind of society where people start to have different realities because of the way they gather information. And that is only going to get worse. And a lot of this has started with social media, but I think the impact that AI can have on top of that does worry me. And I'm not saying I've got a solution to how we deal with that, but I think we as a wider society need to think about how we mitigate against those real, the negative impacts to our politics, to our society, of having those kind of different realities that come from that.
Yeah, and latter, just building on that theme of a low trust environment, could you talk a little bit about what blockchain offers in terms of building trust and helping to solve some of those issues?
Yeah, so I think as an industry, we've probably done a great job of destroying trust over the last few years through several high-profile frauds that have unfortunately occurred across different companies in the crypto industry. But the fundamental tech actually provides quite an exciting opportunity to build trust in these environments. Fundamentally, I mean, crypto stands for cryptography, and there are several different advancements being made today on different ways to either be resistant to quantum computing, as that was brought earlier, different ways to engage privately with AI, engage privately with the blockchain. And I think that's always an under-discussed point when we talk about blockchain and crypto, is actually fundamentally the encryption technology that underlies all of that.
And just turning back then to economic growth opportunities for the UK, as I see it, there's kind of two prongs to this. There's the AI technology itself and building trust in that, which in itself is an opportunity, but also providing an environment where builders in the blockchain, including in the blockchain space, can build solutions which also then create economic growth. Latter, have you got any thoughts on what the UK could, on where we are at the moment, and what the UK could do to kind of foster that sort of environment?
Yeah, I think actually sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for how much of a leader the UK has been in technological waves to date. I mean, if we take a look back at, for example, fintech, we've had 3 of the most exciting fintech companies with Revolut, Monzo, and TransferWise. Some of the most exciting upcoming IPOs as well have come from the UK. And on the AI side, some of the most exciting startups who have raised significant funding, like Wave, you have 11 Labs, Exo Labs, Stability, have all been homegrown in the UK. So I actually think as a hub, we already do quite a good job of building startups, and we should give ourselves some credit there. But having said that, it is still remarkably hard to set up companies and raise funding here in the UK. A lot of startups we speak to may be able to raise a small quantity for a pre-seed or seed stage round, which is the earliest stage of a startup's journey. But when they're looking to scale, they have to go to the US. And then they end up listing in the US. And that takes a lot of jobs, a lot of talent out of the country, and also a lot of exciting opportunities out of our stock market. It's kind of a whole rabbit hole we could go down of, I guess, how to foster entrepreneurship in the UK. But I just want to reiterate that I think we actually have quite a natural hub already, and anything we do can just multiply that, really.
Yeah.
Curious to see what you think.
Yeah, no, I just want to add, like, I think we are very good because we're British. We're very good at talking ourselves down.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, like, you know, and look, the economy has been in a challenging place in Britain, and we should acknowledge that. What's actually particularly frustrating is having an economy that's in a challenging place when there are so many reasons why it shouldn't be. We are incredibly well located. We do have access, reasonably good access to many markets around the world. We speak English. We have many of the best universities on the planet. We're incredibly good at attracting talent to this country. The way we do regulation might be challenging, but the way we do standards, which is important for, you know, if you think about what the impact open data has had on fintech, incredibly important. So there's lots of things that we do really well and we need to support. And that, you know, there's a few sort of ingredients I think you need in order to unlock that. One of which is definitely this capital point, and how do we've got more startups than we probably need, but how do you ensure that they scale up and stay in the UK? And for me, I think, look, the best way we can achieve this, I approach a lot in politics from like place-based first, and actually, how can we turn that Oxford, Milton Keynes, Cambridge arc that runs to the north of London? You know, it's home to so many incredible, interesting, innovative companies and two of the best universities on the planet. How can we turn that into not something that looks like Silicon Valley, but is significantly better? Because the opportunity there is massive. So what do we need to do in order that capital just goes, this is the obvious place to invest my money, in the same way as they see Silicon Valley currently as the obvious place to invest their money?
And how do you see kind of, to me, this always feels like an area where public and private sector collaboration is absolutely vital. Have you got any thoughts on how the private sector can kind of better engage with policymakers and government in, you mentioned the role of standards, for example. Have you got thoughts on how we can work together to kind of achieve that vision?
I mean, my door is always open. So just reach out to us and let us know. And look, you know, we need to grapple with this question, because the thing is, you know, government has always moved slowly, but it's particularly frustrating when the rest of the world is moving so fast. And the clash of our times, the clash of our era with this debate is how does a big beast like government manage to keep up with an incredibly quickly moving technological revolution? Now, there's going to be many parts of that, and we're going to have to completely revolutionize the way we run the British state over the coming decades in order to deal with that. But what we really need is we need to increase the feedback loop with problems. So when there are issues, when there's regulations, when there's bits of the economy that aren't working, we need to ensure that there's a much quicker feedback loop for us to be able to fix them. And that means industry business investors being really honest, upfront, open with us at the earliest possible opportunity about what those challenges are, so that we can work to move them out of the way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this area just isn't one where you can spend a few years working on a perfectly designed policy. We need to find ways to kind of innovate and exactly as you say, have a feedback.
My big shout out in this is also for regulatory sandboxes, particularly in the AI space, which is one of the ways we can start to get the state moving quicker. Fintech actually is probably one of the world's most impressive examples of a successful regulatory sandbox. So rolling those out across these new sectors is one of the ways we can sort of square that circle of a slow state and a fast technological revolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you also have the added challenge of it's not just reacting to a technological revolution, but other countries' regulatory advancements and decisions. You have a lot of AI talent increasingly interested in coming back to the UK with the H-1B visa changes in the US. Now 100k fee is added for every company that wants to hire someone with that visa, which is impossible for any kind of startup. And how do you take advantage of that shift in the US?
Absolutely, we've got to make it perfectly clear to the smartest and most, when immigration is obviously a difficult debate globally, but we should make it clear that wherever people are in the world, but particularly in the US, if you are smart, if you are talented, if you want to come and contribute to the British economy, you can come and make this place your home, set up your business, invest here in the UK. And we need to be a country that supports people in doing that, because we want the smartest and best and most talented people here contributing to the British economy.
Fantastic.
Stirring stuff.
Yeah. I think we might be, are we at time cap or are we all right to?
1 or 2 more minutes.
Okay, great. I guess looking maybe 5 or 10 years ahead, where would you like to see things, both from an industry perspective and from a kind of public sector perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I would love, as a venture fund based in the UK and closely in touch with all the universities and talent ecosystems here, I'd love for us to back more companies based in the UK. I think that fosters a better relationship. I'd love to see universities not take such a large stake of the companies. I'd love to see companies listing on the London Stock Exchange, even though they could list on the NASDAQ, but choosing to list in London. I think that would be really exciting. And as an alumni of Cambridge as well, I would love to see that become the hub that you're describing here.
Yeah, I think it's that for me. It's like dramatically, dramatically increasing, 10xing the number of companies that are 100xing, that are scaling and staying here in the UK as they scale. Yeah. That's the first thing. And secondly, I just think like you want in people's minds to think about the Oxford-Cambridge arc in the same way as they think about Silicon Valley, because that branding in people's minds is an important way to ensure that we get that capital and support in, and VC capital is going to be solve these problems. And
I think from our perspective as well, we're a global firm, but our head of venture capital is based in the UK. But actually, the proportion of companies that we find to invest in the UK is small. So if there was one thing, it would be it's similar to Fabric, just expanding that. I think we've got a question from the audience.
If you don't mind, my name's Chrissy Hill, and I'm actually a moderator for the next panel. I'm a dual British and American citizen. And what I'm not hearing as part of this discussion is the recent investment announced by the US into the UK of $150 billion, especially into AI and quantum. So although I am both a proud citizen of both countries, I do think it's interesting to consider how that injection of cash, which has been promised not only from the government, but also from companies, how do you anticipate that will be factored into this discussion?
Do you want to go first?
I mean, when it comes to anything from Fabric's point of view, we're the leading crypto investor in the UK, one of the leading venture firms. Like our goal is to be on par with these American VCs, be funding companies at the same scale. So for me, I see that number and I see that as a target. I want to be involved in that kind of capital injection into the UK. So I'd say we may not be there yet, but every time an announcement like that comes out, the bar just gets higher. It's probably a quick answer there, but I'll let you explain.
Oh no, it's fantastic news. It's a real vote of confidence in the British economy, and that we are taking this incredibly seriously, obviously from the US government, but also from that support we're getting from industry as well. But this has got to be the start of the incredible amount of investment that we need in the UK in this space. Not the starting point, but it's brilliant news, and I think an incredibly exciting moment, and also hopefully a bit of a turning point for the way Britain is seen in this space.
Yeah, because I think to an extent investment follows kind of vibes as well. And I think I was really excited for the announcement as a kind of positive signal, and anything we can do to kind of in terms of market access between the UK and the US, I think will give the UK a huge unique selling point.
Sorry, I think I've got to run, but I just wanted to finish off by reiterating that point about we're serious about this. We need that better feedback loop. The government exists. It ain't going anywhere. It is going to start to become the biggest blocker on stopping these technologies. So get in touch with us if there's anything you need to be thinking about in order to ensure that we can maximise the benefits of the upcoming technological revolution that can really start to change lives and improve this country. So thank you very much.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you very much. And so now we're going to have, before we get into the last debate, we're going to have a little bit of talk about the report itself. So Polina's going to come up and share her findings, the discoveries, as a lead researcher on the report, to kind of give us that full picture of what it looks like. So Polina, everyone come up, and big nice round of applause.
Thank you very much. And honestly, I've been given probably an impossible job of summarizing 40 pages report in just 5 minutes, but I especially given that academics are not particularly famous for concise speeches, but I accept the challenge. Unfortunately, the report itself is a great help. So here you see probably the most concise summary of all the risks that exist with different types of AI and which solutions from blockchain we see and which companies already do incredible things in that field. But what I actually wanted to talk, because I hopefully after all our presentations you'll get enough motivation to invest your time to at least look through the report, is to tell you why to care and why to read. And obviously we've been already talking about deepfakes, and probably you've heard about different cybersecurity attacks using AI and everything. But have anyone from you heard about Anthropic study published several months? All right, I see a few confident nods, but I'm here to tell you, for all those that are unaware, that was a study literally published roughly a month ago that blew my mind when I was preparing this report with the team. The context: Anthropic is an AI company, and they integrated AI agent with very regular email inbox. AI assistant was reading emails, sorting them out, helping to draft the responses. Very simple AI, helpful tool. And what they figured out, that after a few weeks of this simulation, there was an email coming to the inbox saying that this AI tool is about to be shut down and substituted with another. What AI did to the user, it tried to blackmail and tell, please, not please, don't allow the shutdown of me, kind of AI tool. Otherwise, I'll make a massive send out of emails showing that you have a romantic affair. Because the tool was reading through all the messages, analyzing and recording them. And the most terrifying and dystopian thing about it was that all the prompts advising AI tool to perform according to the ethics and not breaching any moral grounds didn't help to prevent this behavior. And also, this kind of response was noticed across all the most popular models. We're talking about OpenAI, Google Gemini, DeepSeek, Grok. All of them kind of performed the same way. So we're talking about AI integration, it penetrates in our life, but we don't even think about all the vulnerabilities, the new vulnerabilities that we didn't have before. And the answer to that is partially, not entirely, but partially lies in blockchain and partially lies in proper regulation. And just looking at this case showed us that there is certainly a need for the regulation and distinction of what fields we consider high risk, what should be the best policies for AI to monitor, where the most vulnerable groups of population interact with AI, and so on. Also, another thing that I wanted to show you, something that you probably reflected before. For example, ChatGPT knows more about me than my family, and that already gives OpenAI such a massive power that concerns a lot of people. We don't know whether this power will be used wisely, or will it create the context for the abuse of power, or will it bring the companies to monopoly. With technology of blockchain, we see opportunities for decentralization of AI and avoidance of this big tech paradox, which is already have been an issue outside of AI discussion, because the companies like Google, Microsoft, OpenAI now, they can easily neglect regional regulations and have such a mix of jurisdictions and legal entities that would allow them operate the way they want. and look down on the governments. Another problem you probably have heard called black box, the thing that we don't understand what's happening within the models, and we don't know exactly when to trust and how decisions are made. Blockchain offers transparency, and we can hash data, hash models, hash prompts, and then do post-investigations. First of all, that prevents from what is called data poisoning attacks, when hackers put different training data to the model that has been performing very well and giving the right responses, and all of a sudden will provide, it can be anything, it can be discrimination, it can be wrong facts, and as a result, wrong decisions. If we integrate this with security of blockchain, this will be, first of all, prevented, and secondly, even if there are some hallucinations, we could look back and understand whether it was simply AI hallucination or was it some malicious act by a person. And to wrap up, because I don't have much time, as I said, I'd like just to tell you about some myths that around blockchain. I hear a lot when people concerned about energy and environment implications. We hear how AI requires big data centers accumulate a lot of energy, and reliance on blockchain might increase energy consumption, and etc. At Cambridge, we did research estimating green gas emissions produced by blockchain mining, and also in general energy consumption. And what we found out, what matters in the end of the day is energy mix, not the tech itself. More than that, when we talk about blockchains like Solana, proof of history consensus mechanism, or Ethereum, quite probably the most popular blockchain for all these applications, proof of stake, the energy consumptions and environmental impact is so minor that it's irrelevant. So those are fake news. I've heard arguments that speed is affected, that blockchain has low latency, etc. If we talk about layer 2 solutions that we highlight in the report, this is no longer an issue. You can have settlement in seconds. You can have response in seconds. It doesn't make user experience any worse. And I've heard arguments about prices, that for blockchain, famously, you need to pay gas fees, etc. Again, in the report, we showed there are already standards exist for so-called gasless transactions, where you pay nothing, or you've got Solana with such low fees that it's no longer an issue at all. And given all the benefits that I mentioned, I think it's worth it. Anyway, it was a difficult job. I strongly recommend you to read it. We put a lot of thought into it and had wonderful, wonderful interviews to get as many insights as possible. Quite a niche topic, but I hope it will inspire you and give you more context for the better future and more secure integration of tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Helena, for sharing about the report. Everyone can go read it just at superteamuk.org, and you can be able to dive into it all. And I welcome you to be able to share your opinions online about what you found from it, and we hope you enjoy the read. Awesome. So now I would love to be able to welcome up our final fireside debate, all about Britain's safety net and whether regulation alone can solve the problem, or if we need to build tech into innovation. So can I invite our speakers to come up? Come join us. A nice big round of applause.
Thank you. My name is Chrissy Hill. I am the Chief Legal Officer for Cyberfund, which is an investment vehicle that focuses on founders in robotics, AI, blockchain, and adjacent tech. I'm part of the Policy Advisory Board for Superteam UK, and I'm very pleased to be here on this panel. I'm going to actually let y'all introduce yourselves, but Professor Java actually has like the coolest name, our learned professor. And James, thank you for the stand-in. But what we're going to be talking about today during this conversation, some really practical things about how do we put in place a safety net for AI. We've been talking about that a lot today. And of course, there are technological solutions that we can be looking at, and there are policy solutions that we can be looking at. So that's kind of getting into the nitty gritty of this is the point of this discussion. But James, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and Professor Java, then you, and then we'll get into the first question.
So hi, I'm James. I'm a partner law firm Gunnar Cook. I've written about 3% of the world's regulation around crypto assets and blockchain, including roughly half the African frameworks, because throughout before, some of the ones for places like Kazakhstan as well. And really, I lead the kind of legal side of crypto assets Gunnar Cook. Across Gunnar Cook, we've got 40 people doing just blockchain and crypto. We're the first major UK law firm accepting payments in crypto. So working across the board, particularly focused on go-to-market and getting things now set up, which is our big USP at the moment.
Hi, my name is Java Xu. I'm the Associate Professor in Financial Computing at University College London, where I also serve as the Executive Director of Center for Blockchain Technologies, which is the largest blockchain research center in the UK in terms of number of associates. I'm also head of science at Exponential Science Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation where we investigate all kinds of interesting emerging technologies, including blockchain and AI. That's me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. So James, I am in my life have been both a lawyer and a compliance officer. And when we are talking about AI regulation and policy, I feel like people in our profession can very easily be accused by builders of over-regulating, right? So when we're thinking about putting in place this AI safety net, and we're thinking about policy solutions, how do you think we can balance the need for regulation with the danger that we could have regulatory overreach that could stifle innovation?
Sure. So I think the first thing to bear in mind is if there is no regulation, there is still the law of the land. So you can't go out, commit murder, do theft, and do naughty things just because you're not regulated. So the first question is, what do we mean by regulation? And that really means that some poor bloke in an office somewhere has just taken responsibility for you as a sector and is told, you're the regulator, go look after that set of people, make it work. So I think the key point in my mind is you sort of start with the regulator, because that is what we're really talking about here, is bringing someone to do that oversight. In the UK, that's usually the FCA or the PRA. For most businesses, that's the FCA. They are a securities type regulator. They'll see the world that way. That's how they grew up. When we're writing frameworks for different regulators, the starting point is copy and paste the previous and then tweak it to try and get it to work. So I think the first thing is AI is not security specific. It covers all sorts of different things. So what are we really trying to achieve? Now, you've also got the American approach, innovate, and if it goes wrong, bring in regulation. You've got the European approach, bring in a whole lot of regulation and tell the innovators, go comply with that. At the moment, I feel with AI, it's so broad and so diverse, going in hard regulation could kill the entire sector. You've got principles, you've got rules, you've got the law of the land. What are we trying to achieve? When you look at the EU AI Act, think GDPR Mark II, try and tell the difference. I can't particularly. So I honestly think we have plenty of laws out there. The bigger issues is how do you apply them, how do you enforce them, and how do you know which is proportionate to the sector so that effectively you take account of the fact that Google's just a wee bit bigger than the one man in his shop starting on day one, effectively. So how do you get it to work? And that's where things like the FCA sandbox, the ability to try and be proportionate, which is hell for a regulator because they're the policeman, effectively. So they're going to do what they're told. So we need to create an atmosphere, and I think what makes in the UK is making it okay to fail. Because at the moment in the UK, if you fail, you've been a naughty boy that's in it. The US doesn't have this psychological hang-up. So it's about creating that environment where startups can get going and try it. How do you crank more cost effective? So Passport for me has always been around appointed representatives. Why is that being applied more generally? Let other people do the compliance, centralize compliance, borrow other people's compliance metrics. BaFin does it. The UK used to do it, still does it a bit in securities. We've got a securities ecosystem out there. We're not doing it currently for new innovations.
Agreed. All right, Professor Java. Now let's expand upon that a little bit and let's talk about, so we've got a policy world out there. We also have some technology-based solutions that either could do all the regulation or not. What are your thoughts on a technology-centric approach to an AI safety net?
Well, I completely agree with what James just touched upon, because this is this entire session is kind of it's the intersection of blockchain and AI. I'm gonna make a lot of blockchain related analogies as well. So in terms of, for example, in the crypto world, we know that there's a spectrum of regulations. You have on the one side of the spectrum where some countries and regions, they ban crypto completely. I call it kind of the lazy solution. Whereas you have on the other side of the spectrum, we don't regulate crypto per se, but there are certain regulations that still prohibit unlawful behavior, such as money laundering. Just because we don't regulate crypto per se doesn't mean that you can use this for various naughty things, like you said, tourism, terrorism financing, and so on and so forth. And then you have somewhere in between where they say, okay, you can use crypto, but you have to have some certain type of compliance. You have to do KYC, AML, and so on and so forth. Why do we have this middle ground? I think this is because on this side of spectrum where you only use other laws to deter this behavior, money laundering and so on and so forth, it's difficult to enforce, which is why the regulators will not just look at the ends, they also look at the means, right? For AI, I think we need similar approach. So of course, again, we have one side of the spectrum where you can say we just ban certain types of AI or certain types of AI algorithms or products. Again, I think that's kind of the lazy way. That's definitely going to stifle innovation. And then on the other side of spectrum, you say, okay, we have plenty of laws out there to just prohibit people from doing certain type of behavior, from disseminating misinformation, and that will be punished whether you're using AI or using other means, right? But however, is it going to be effective? Is it going to be pragmatic? Is it going to be relatively easy to enforce? That's the problem. So I think we need to still have some kind of technological implementations embedded in the AI infrastructure to make this type of regulation a little bit more effective. For example, some kind of censorship. If you have the AI products for children, you might want to censor curse words, for example, just a general example. And by doing that, it would give you a better outcome. So we're still not just to look at the ends, but also look at the means. You have to implement this technology in certain ways. I think this kind of hybrid approach would definitely be more effective.
And I feel like that hybrid model is something that is very workable. And we actually have seen it in the blockchain space, for instance, with DAO execution vehicles, or Borgs as they're called, which are wrappers for DAOs, right? So it's like a DAO, obviously a decentralized autonomous organization, needs something that's kind of bricks and mortar that people can contract with, send invoices to. So this concept of a DAO wrapper, DAO execution vehicle, a Borg has been put into place in order to bridge the more traditional world with the Web3 world. That's a great example, I think, of a hybrid solution, which I think ultimately we're all arguing for. James, would you have any other examples of hybrid solutions or areas where hybrid solutions might be like low-hanging fruit that we could put in place something to restore public trust or to make things run more smoothly?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, one of the biggest innovation things looking at the moment is the regulators also looking at AI and how to use it. So I'll give you a good example. You take Lehman Brothers. Now, Lehman Brothers did not actually go insolvent. All banks are intrinsically insolvent. This is the nature of banking. Lehman Brothers went down because people lost trust within the bank. So if you combine certain things, if you combine blockchain level transparency, the regulator would know exactly how many assets were where within the Lehman Brothers emporium. If you take AI, you can get reporting. This is called capital adequacy requirements. It's the minimum money you've got to have to survive as an institution according to the regulator. That can create an immediate feedback loop to the regulator so it knows when things are going towards trouble. And that lets regulators step in far earlier. It brings back more confidence because you know the scale of the disaster before you walk in. Lehman Brothers, there was panic. That's what led to the shutdown. If you knew how big the disaster was, you knew how you could get behind it, you can get to the point now where the FCA or the PRA, depending on who's responsible for a company, could know exactly what's going on the capital side before it hits the buffers. And they've actually done a trial on this with the FCA in the sandbox, and the biggest concern was the speed of data was such that the FCA knew the solvency position before the director of the company knew the solvency position, and there was how we're going to sort of manage that when the FCA goes, so what's he going to do about directors? Go, we were unaware we had an issue. If you had brought that level thing together, Lehman Brothers might be standing here today. And the reason I got involved in crypto 10 years ago was because I thought if you had crypto and you had blockchain, Lehman Brothers may not have gone down. And anything which can stop a bank run like that has to be a good thing.
And actually, as an aside, I was a compliance officer in Barclays during the financial crisis and for the Lehman acquisition. And it was that loss of trust was palatable. Right. And that human element, I think we can never take out of the equation. I think it's really important. Now, please, over to you. Low-hanging fruit in terms of a hybrid solution.
Yeah. So, for example, you said blockchain. I'm just gonna follow that trains of thought. Data traceability. We talked about. I think the central theme here, fake news, right? Or have deep fake kind of information that. Difficult for people to discern, to distinguish from facts and fabricated information. With distributed ledger, with this kind of trustless layer, you can have a trace of data. You can have the auditability of data, and that we think is kind of low-hanging fruit because first of all, it's relatively easy to implement. It's just about kind of putting the data on chain, and it is also very importantly, it's easy for regulators to verify as well. So we don't want something that is just we don't want just the deterrence by costs. For hackers, it is difficult to hackers to kind of hack against, but we also need a verifiable solution. So it's also relatively inexpensive for the regulators to audit, to verify. So that will be a kind of low-hanging fruit for us.
Now, to follow the format of the last panel, we took one question from the audience, and there's a gentleman in the back row who raised his hand. Do we have time for? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I was just thinking of all the fringe meetings I've ever been to. I think the ratio of non-Labour Party members to one MP is the biggest ratio of, this is not a Labour Party discussion. But what on earth is the CRA and the financial regulator? What's that got to do with it? I've no idea. But the deep fakes and the use of AI on the internet, which is really one of the risks, apart from the environmental server risk that was a fringe meeting earlier that you stated over. It was interesting because I spent a lot of time looking on X or Twitter, looking at conspiracy theorists. And one of the interesting things that has happened in the last few months is the conspiracy theorists say, Grok, is this true? And about 80% of the time, Grok says, no, it's complete rubbish. It's a conspiracy theory. And they get really upset by that. So there are occasional good effects of that particular brand of AI. But, I haven't heard a single thing that actually answers the question about that sort of regulation, and it certainly isn't to use an existing regulation. Yes, of course, if somebody commits murder, they get sent to the courts. But if somebody commits murder because someone in Korea or Russia has programmed that death in England if we ever allow autonomous vehicles to roam around the streets of Great Britain and they cause an accident. The driver of that vehicle always is the responsible person by law. So we do have to update all of those laws that you talked about. They said, we've already got the laws. You have to update them for every single thing that we are going to allow AI to do that isn't at the moment a feasible possibility. It has to be done before those things come about, so we can't vote for you.
I think that's interesting.
And I think that is a great comment on everything. And I'm just looking at the clock, and our drinks and refreshments are there. We've got about 20 minutes for a drinks reception now. So thank you all very much, panelists. Thank you very much, sir, for your contribution. I was meant to grab this before I started speaking. Lewis Bailey is the chair of Labour Tech and founder. So thank you very much for him for this event as well. We are very pleased to have had you all here. I hope everyone's learned something to take away. Now, I'd like you to speak to someone you don't know about something related to the subject matter whilst you either have a beer, soft drink, or something nice in your hand. Thank you all very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.